A very good afternoon to you all. You are watching BeeTv Global News at 12. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Harmony Agbafor, and now let's take a look at the news in details. U.S. President Donald Trump is weighing the possibility of sending Tomahawk long-range missiles to Ukraine, a move that could heighten tensions with Russia, describing the move as a possible new step of aggression in the country's war with Russia. Speaking abroad Air Force One, Trump said he might send the missiles, which have a range of about 2,500 kilometers and could reach Moscow, though he added that he may also choose not to. The statement followed his second phone conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has been pressing Washington for stronger military support, including long-range weapons and enhanced air defenses. Moscow has repeatedly warned the United States against supplying such missiles, saying it would dangerously escalate the conflict and harm U.S.-Russian relations. Trump, who was en route to Israel, said he might also speak to Russia about the issue, warning that if the war continues, the U.S. could proceed with the missile transfer. The discussions come amid ongoing Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure, which have left parts of the country facing power shortages, despite Kyiv's hope that long-range missiles could shift the balance of the war. The Kremlin has dismissed the idea, insisting that weapons like the Tomahawk would not change the overall dynamics of the conflict.
We basically would like to, as you know, we are not sending any weapons. We're sending them to NATO, and NATO is paying, which is a big difference between Biden and Trump, because Biden gave them $350 billion, and we didn't. We gave them nothing, but we gave them respect and some other things, frankly. So we talked about weapons, and the weapons are sent to NATO, and NATO then sends us a check. They pay for info, and they would need more weapons, and we're looking into doing that. We hope we're going to be able to provide them. You know, our country needs weapons too. We can't give so many weapons that we don't have weapons. You never know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen? But NATO pays us 100% for the weapons, and then they send them into Ukraine. And we talked about the weapons they need, what kind of weapons. They need Patriots very badly. They'd like to have Tomahawks. That's a step up. They'd like to have Tomahawks. We talked about that. And so we'll see. Well, I don't know. I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky, because Tomahawks are a new step of aggression.
In another development, the United States has urged China to release 30 Christian leaders from one of the country's largest underground church networks who were detained in overnight raids across multiple cities. Among them is Pastor Jin Mingri, founder of Zion Church, which has faced 8 years of government pressure and was banned in 2018 for resisting state surveillance. Washington condemned the arrest as a severe violation of religious freedom, with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio accusing Beijing of hostility towards Christians who reject Communist Party control. The crackdown marks one of the most extensive actions against unregistered churches in decades, further straining U.S.-China relations amid renewed trade tensions. Despite past closures and arrests, Zion's church network of over 10,000 members has continued to meet secretly and share sermons online. The Dutch government has taken the highly exceptional step of intervening in Chinese-owned chipmaker Nexperia, citing risks to Dutch and European economic security. The move, made under the Goods Availability Act, follows reports of serious governance shortcomings at the firm and aims to safeguard critical technology and ensure chip supply in emergencies. Nexperia's Chinese parent company, Wingtech, said it will defend its rights and seek government support. The decision adds to rising EU-China tensions amid trade disputes and concerns over Beijing's ties with Russia. Wingtech's Wintech shares fell 10% short after the announcement, and the company is already on the U.S. entity list, restricting its access to American-made goods. Coming back to the Gaza ceasefire, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Egypt for a high-level peace summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, where world leaders are set to sign a US-brokered agreement aimed at ending the Gaza conflict and paving the way for lasting regional stability. The report. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Egypt ahead of an international summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, where world leaders are expected to sign a peace plan for Gaza following a US-brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The agreement, led by US President Donald Trump, includes the release of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners, as well as increased humanitarian aid to Gaza. Starmer is set to thank Trump, along with Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, for their diplomatic efforts and reaffirm the UK's support for lasting peace and regional stability. More than 20 leaders, including Egypt's Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and France's Emmanuel Macron, will attend the summit, which Downing Street described as a historic turning point after 2 years of conflict. While the UK claims to have played a quiet role behind the scenes, US and Israeli officials have dismissed those suggestions, saying Washington led the negotiations. The ceasefire marks the first phase of a multi-stage plan, with further talks expected on governance, troop withdrawal, and the disarmament of Hamas. Harmony Agbafor reporting for BeeTv News. 42 Zimbabwean and Malawian nationals have died after taking a bus them home, overturned on a South African road, authorities have said. The crash happened on Sunday night as the bus was moving through a mountainous section of the N1 highway in South Africa's Limpopo province, local transport officials said. He veered off the road along a steep mountain pass and plunged down an embankment. Continue. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa mourned the high death toll, which includes 7 children, and said this was not only a tragedy for the country, but for their sister states of Zimbabwe and Malawi. The office of Madagascar's president, Andry Rajoelina, has said an attempt to seize power illegally and by force is underway in the country. Hours later, an army unit known as CAPSAT claimed that it had taken over the leadership of the military command and was now in control of all the armed forces, land, air, and naval. BeeTv News' Zainab Muhammad has details.
Madagascar is facing a major political crisis after President Andry Rajoelina's office confirmed an attempt to seize power by force.
The urgency is the restoration of public order and the daily lives of all Malagasy people. We, the military, stand for the homeland. We protect the people and their...
The army unit, CAPSAT, which helped bring Rajoelina power in 2009, has declared control over the country's armed forces and appointed a new army chief. The unrest began in September as protests against power cuts and poor living conditions, but has since grown into a wider movement demanding the president's resignation. nation. Some soldiers have joined the demonstrators who recently captured the symbolic May 13 square in the capital and Antananarivo. Raju Helenas condemned the takeover as unconstitutional and called for unity to defend democracy.
For years, what we experienced here in Madagascar is not something that any human being should go through. It was hell. There was no water, no electricity. And once you ask for what you want, they give you tear gas.
The Prime Minister has urged the nation to...
The protest movement, largely driven by young people under the banner Gen Z Matter, has used social media to mobilize supporters nationwide. International observers have voiced concern that the crisis could spiral into violence if not contained. The African Union has called for calm and urged both sides to seek a peaceful solution. Air France has suspended flight to Antananarivo due to safety fears, and several parts of the city remain tense. The unrest highlights long-standing issues of poverty, corruption, and inequality that have plagued Madagascar for decades. Sohe Osemegi, reporting for BeeTv News.
The Academic Staff Union of Universities has instructed all its branches across the country to commence a 2-day warning strike after the federal government's 14-day ultimatum expired. The report.
On the 28th of September, university teachers rose for a meeting to hand a 2-week timeline for the government at the center to address their demands, which they say have dragged on for too long. The union says 8 issues are in dispute, and they include conclusion of the renegotiated 2009 FGN-ASU agreement, release of withheld 3.5-month salaries, sustainable funding of public universities, revitalization of universities, and a stop to alleged victimization of lecturers across some state universities.
Government agents have again been pleading for more time since the expiry of the 3-week promised, with nothing concrete for ASU leadership to take to its members.
The union expressed concerns that the government's engagement with it since the strike notice was issued has not produced any meaningful outcome. It accuses the government of raising and dashing the hopes of its members.
All branches of ASU are hereby directed to withdraw their services with effect from midnight, Monday 13th October 2025. The warning strike shall be total, comprehensive, as we had agreed in NEC.
While it indicates readiness to suspend the warning strike should the government return to the negotiation table, the union warns a full-blown and indefinite strike will follow if nothing concrete happens.
Our members' patience has been tasked beyond reasonable limits. So we are pushing to it. If government is ready to resolve the matter, as a matter of this action will be over.
While we are ready, the drivers are ready, the train is serviced and ready to take off, we hope that they will not allow us embark on this next leg, which would be total and comprehensive. And that we cannot say when it will end.
ASU appeals to all well-meaning Nigerians and professional bodies to prevail on the government and its officials to listen to the voice of reasoning and return to the negotiation table. Temitokpe Oluwafemi reporting for BeeTv News.
There is growing tension in Enugu and Bayelsa states ahead of the reported defection of Governors Peter Mba and Duoye Diri from the People's Democratic Party to the ruling All Progressive Congress. Both governors elected on the PDP platform are said to have finalized plans to switch parties with a defection initially scheduled for October 14. However, emerging developments within the APC in Enugu may lead to a delay. Over the weekend, a crisis rocked the Enugu APC, prompting the party's National Working Committee to dissolve the existing State Working Committee and install a caretaker committee led by Ben Nwoye. While the newly appointed caretaker leadership is reportedly preparing to receive Governor Mba into the party, the SWC has rejected the move, insisting it remains the legitimate leadership of the APC in the state. So far, the PDP leadership in both Enugu and Bayelsa has remained silent on the defections, despite multiple efforts by the media to get their reactions. In Bayelsa, news of Governor Diri's plan to move to APC has sparked divided opinions among stakeholders in the predominantly Ijaw-speaking states. Some have welcomed the development, arguing the alignment with the APC-controlled federal government could bring increased federal support and development. Others, however, criticized the move as politically motivated and questioned the value of such a shift, considering PDP's stronghold in the state for over 2 decades. Efforts to get comments from state PDP officials were unsuccessful. However, APC Bayelsa State Chairman Chief Dennis Otitio confirmed the party's readiness to receive new members. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has arrived in Rome, the capital of Italy, to attend the Akwaaba process, a high-level meeting of heads of state and government focused on addressing the security crisis in West Africa. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, has announced that the meeting set to begin on Tuesday will convene heads of state and government as well as senior intelligence and military officials from across Africa to address the growing security threats in West Africa. The Akwaaba process, a counter-terrorism initiative launched in 2015 by King Abdullah II of Jordan, is co-chaired by the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan and the Italian government. During the summit, President Tinubu is also expected to hold bilateral talks with fellow leaders focusing on collaborative strategies to tackle the escalating security challenges in the sub-region. And now let's move on to the business news. Dangote Cement has commenced operations at its new production facility in Antigua, located approximately 30 kilometers from Abidjan, the Ivory Coast. The plant spans 50 hectares and has a production capacity of 3 million tons of cement annually, making it one of the company's largest facilities outside Nigeria. Let's join BeeTv News' Temitope Oluwafemi for more on this and more from the business world.
The project involved an investment of 100 billion CFA francs and marks Ivory Coast as the 11th African country to host a Dangote cement production unit. With a continental capacity of 55 million tons per year, Dangote Cement aims to meet increasing construction demands driven by urbanization and infrastructure development in Ivory Coast. The antique facility is expected to generate over 1,000 direct and indirect jobs and stimulate local economic activity, including transportation, construction services, retail, and supply chain support. The plant aims to supply high-standard cement at competitive prices while supporting industrial self-sufficiency in the region. FG accumulates new 1 trillion naira debt to Gencos in 6 months. The federal government of Nigeria accrued a debt of 1.5 trillion naira to electricity generation companies in the first half of 2025. The figure represents unpaid power subsidy obligations, with 536.40 billion naira incurred in the first quarter and 514.35 billion naira in the second quarter. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission attributed the debt to the continued absence of cost-reflective tariffs, necessitating government subsidies to cover the gap between generation cost and consumer charges. Under the discourse remittance obligation regime implemented in January 2024, the government assumes payment responsibility for these gaps to prevent financial pressure on the distribution companies. During the second quarter, Gencos issued invoices totaling 863.2 billion naira, while the adjusted invoice under the DRO to Discourse stood at 348.66 billion naira. Discourse remitted 333.90 billion naira, achieving a 95.77% remittance rate. In response to accumulated legacy debt, the federal government approved a 4 trillion naira bond to settling outstanding obligations through Genco's report limited involvement in the disbursement planning process. Stanbic IBTC facilitates UAC's acquisition of Chi Limited. Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC served as the mandated lead arranger in UAC of Nigeria's PLC acquisition of Chi Limited, providing end-to-end financier and advisory support. Stanbic IBTC functioned as the global coordinator for the deal and delivered a structured multi-product investment banking and financing package in the collaboration with UAC. The acquisition, first announced in July and completed on October 3, 2025, was approved by the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Chi Limited is a major player in Nigeria's food and beverage sector, with established brands in dairy, juice, nectar, and snacks. The acquisition allows UAC to expand its presence in the fast-moving consumer goods sector, providing access to Chi's proprietary technologies, distribution infrastructure, and market-leading product portfolio. Stanbic IBTC provided FX risk hedging, escrow services, and utilized the Standard Bank Group's regional expertise to complete one of the most significant consumer goods acquisitions in the country. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BeeTv News.
Now moving on to the entertainment scenes, Nigerian media personality Natasha Akide, popularly known as Tacha, relocated her Guinness World Record attempt for the most makeovers completed in 24 hours from the United Kingdom to Nigeria. Also, Akon's 29-year marriage ends as wife files for divorce and seeks €100 million settlements. Let's join BeeTv News' Evelyn Izibili for details and more from the entertainment news.
The attempt took place at the Tasha Beauty Festival, hosted at the John Rado Center for Yoruba Culture and History in Lagos. Originally planned with foreign sponsorship, the event was moved to showcase Nigeria's creative talent and elevate the local beauty industry on a global platform. The attempt, in development for 2 years, began on Saturday night with a target of 150 makeovers in 24 hours. By Sunday afternoon, she had completed 115 makeovers, surpassing the existing record of 110. Despite minor power disruptions, the event continued without delay. The record attempt was part of a broader 3 days festival celebrating beauty, culture, and creativity held from October 10th to 12th. Tasha dedicated the event to her late mother and executed each makeover within minutes, followed by a showcase at a photo booth and runway. In another development, Nollywood actress Adesuwa Etumi Wellington experienced a medical emergency in June while in the United Kingdom, resulting in an unplanned surgical procedure. The incident occurred during a trip with her husband and children, where she was scheduled for speaking engagements. The situation escalated into a life-threatening event, which she described as nearly fatal. The emergency led to immediate surgery, which she later revealed was the least traumatic part of the ordeal. The experience reinforced her personal faith and prompted a public reflection on the importance of compassion, patience, and gratitude. Adesuwa had previously disclosed challenges, including fertility issues and her husband's health battles, further contributing to her perspective on life and wellness. American Senegalese singer Akon is undergoing divorce proceedings after his wife of 29 years, Tomike Thiam, filed to end their marriage. The divorce petition includes a €100 million settlement demand, cited long-standing irreconcilable differences, emotional neglect, and lack of financial transparency. The couple had been together since the early stage of Akon's career. During the legal process, it was reported that Akon's disclosed accounts balance was only $10,000, prompting widespread public speculations about asset concealment. Court investigation allegedly suggested that a substantial portion of his wealth may be held in accounts not directly linked to him, potentially as a strategic financial move ahead of the settlement. Akon had not issued any public response or statement through his legal team. The case has generated extensive online reactions and media discussions, especially regarding the singer's perceived wealth and philanthropic image. Evelyn Izibili reporting for BeeTv News.
And now let's dive into the world of sports. The Super Eagles of Nigeria show off laughter in training and head for a crucial World Cup clash against the Cheetahs of the Benin Republic. The Eagles of Nigeria have injected humor into their preparations just days before facing the Cheetahs of Benin Republic in Uyo. After a 2-1 win against the Crocodiles of Lesotho, the team arrived following flight delays on Sunday, October 12, 2025. The three-time African champions were spotted sharing laughter during the training session following posts of the official social media post. Along with the post was a message about the team spirit that said, lights, laughter, hard work. The Super Eagles currently third with 14 points and need a win against the leaders Benin Republic and a favorable result from South Africa's match against Rwanda to keep their qualifications hope alive. More developments from the sports scene. Anthony Joshua's next opponent has been confirmed and a deal is supposedly in place for a big fight next year. Joshua hasn't fought since his crushing knockout defeat to Daniel Dubois at Wembley Stadium last year. But a comeback is in the works, having undergone surgery on his elbow in May to correct an injury that had sidelined him from training. A bout in Africa has been mooted with Nigeria and Ghana, rumored as countries to host a mega event ahead of a potential all-British battle against Tyson Fury, who is expected to return to action next year. And that is all for the hour. Many thanks for joining us on BeeTv News at 12. My name is Harmony Agbafor. We'll bring you later updates in the day.